The Marty and Laura Show is brought to you by Veterinary Village. With locations throughout Wisconsin, Veterinary Village is dedicated to enhancing the quality of animal and human lives, today and into the future. All right, everybody, welcome to the Marty and Laura Show. I am Laura.
And I'm Marty.
Excellent. And I can never remember which way the camera goes, so y'all just going to have to suffer with me. Marty and I, for once, are not traveling asunder. We are actually in our assigned places. It's a miracle. We're really excited. And we've been having this pretty fascinating conversation about eyeballs in our doggies. And we've talked about the eyelids, and we've talked about the corneas. And tonight we are going to talk about the retinas. Yes, I know, this is very exciting. And Marty just said the retina, now make sure I got this right, is like the film in the camera. Is that right?
Right. It's where the image is projected. So it's like the film in the camera that the image is projected onto. And of course, a lot of young people don't know what film is. So we'll have to make some assumptions here.
You guys can Google it, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, rotary dial phones like that.
Exactly. So it's the back of the eye. It's where the optic nerve comes in. It's where all the images are projected, where the light comes through the cornea, through the lens, into the back of the eye. And then there's a nerve that interprets the information so that it turns into an image when you're looking at something, assuming that you still have vision. So it's super important. And there's
very important
a
for our
jillion
dogs.
things. Yeah, very important for our dogs. Because dogs are really visual, very, very visual creatures. They function with their nose and their eyes, and they're very visual.
And their ears.
So it's a really important part of their behavior, part of their function. So it's a pretty interesting part of the eye, and there's a lot of things that can go wrong with it. So I think it's important that we discuss it, because many times your veterinarian may see something and go, yeah, I'm out. I need to send you to see an ophthalmologist. And if they say that, then there's a good reason for it, because retinas are difficult part of the body to really understand and interpret. I'm not good with retinas. A lot of veterinarians aren't good with retinas, and it requires specialized equipment and really great knowledge to understand what's going on there.
So when I was in college and just out of college working at the newspaper, I took photos in a camera that had film in it, and then I would trot my little self to the lab where I would dunk the things in the chemicals and hang them up with clothespins on a line. And so you're telling me this is the dog version of that?
Yeah, or the human version.
Faster.
I mean, we all have
faster,
retinas. Yeah. Yeah. And retinas are kind of cool in dogs because they have different colors. There's tapetal and non-tapetal retina. And there's some really cool colors, like the blue-eyed dogs have really, really cool colored retinas. So it's pretty interesting. So I kind of to frame this, if you're driving down the highway with your headlights on and it's night, and there's something that turns its head and looks at you, a dog, a deer, whatever, and you see that green flash, that's the retina that's reflecting the light back at you.
Okay.
So just so you kind of understand that. And so it's the very back of the eye. It's where the nerve comes in. It's the very back of the eye. And it's a very, very, very essential part of vision and how your brain interprets the images. So super important that we have
Is that the part that sees motion also? Because I know dogs are very motion oriented, right?
Yeah.
Like a static thing, they might look at it, but a motion thing, they're like, oh yeah, okay, that's a thing.
Right. Like dropping a piece of brown meat onto the floor, onto the brown floor, the dog may not see it sitting on the floor, but when it's moving, they may pick up that movement. So yes, for sure.
Okay. All right. So what are some of the things that we can see go wrong with a retina in a dog?
Well, I made a long list because I did some reading on this, and sometimes I don't read. Sometimes I just shoot from the hip. But tonight I actually did some.
And most of this stuff you kind of know off the top of your head, but this is definitely more specialized.
Retinas are very specialized. So I put them in alphabetical order because that way I could keep track of where I was. But that's not necessarily the most common thing. So let's talk about the common things first. And
Okay.
those are going to be things like genetic disorders of the retina, high blood pressure issues with the retina, which mostly are in cats but can be in dogs. And then there's infections and retinal detachments. So I think those are kind of important.
Retinal detachment sounds bad.
It is, and it happens in people, it happens in dogs. There's a number of reasons that it can happen. And in people, they've gotten pretty good at reattaching retinas. In
Really?
dogs, we're not that good. Oh, yeah, I've got several friends slash clients that have had retinal detachments. And when they happen, they are bad because you have a very limited amount of time to get it reattached. And in people, they tend to either laser it back on, like with spot welding, the retina back onto the back of your eye
What?
with a laser. Yeah, I know it's pretty interesting. Or they do something called a buckle technique where they put fluid in your eye, press the retina back against the back of the eye, and then they make you lay face down for several days, maybe a week at a time.
Oh, that
So
sounds
do
really
not.
unattractive.
No, it's not good because you are like flat for a week with this.
So that would be hard for a dog because no dog is going to lay flat. No, that's not going to happen.
Impossible.
Yeah.
Almost impossible. So my son's dog, one of the dogs my son had is a corgi, and he was born at my house, bred by me. And my son called me one day and he said, I don't think that Ratchet's seeing very well. Can I bring him in? Like, sure, come on in. I mean, it's your kid, right? You're going to see him.
I know.
So we have him come up after I'm done with appointments, and I took a look in his eyes, and I went,
Yeah.
okay, okay. And so I said, let's go get a dinner. Let's go down the street to the tavern and let's get some dinner. I sat him down and I said, okay, so I can't see anything in one eye because the retina's detached, and the other eye doesn't look too good.
Oh my
And he's
gosh.
like, okay, well, he said, I noticed that he wasn't seeing very well. And here's the thing about dogs with their vision is they fake it really well because they memorize the
Right.
house and they memorize the yard and the steps and all the stuff.
Mhm.
And unless they suddenly go blind, you don't notice that they're going blind because they really do a great job of faking it. Well, Ratchet was doing a pretty good job. So I sat him down and said, this is not good. I'm going to send you to see the ophthalmologist. I called the ophthalmologist the next morning because, of course, by the time I found this, it was 7 o'clock at night.
Sure.
So I called the ophthalmologist and he says, have him here at 9 o'clock. Okay. So I trot the dog in. He takes one look at the dog and kind of does the same thing that I do and goes, okay. He says, so he's got a retinal detachment. This is never good when the ophthalmologist says this. He's got a retinal detachment, and there are 3 people in the country that can reattach the retina. 3
What?
in the country.
What?
This was 15 years ago. He says, one's in Chicago, so I can send you there. We're like, yeah, good. So I called the vet school, and the vet school said, no, we're not going to try it because it never works. Okay.
Oh my.
So my son had just started a new job. So my husband said, well, I'll take the dog. I'll take a day off of work. I'll take the dog down to Chicago. We'll see the one guy in the whole part of the country that can do this.
Oh,
Takes him in. He goes, yeah, we can do this. So he said, well, the right eye's already shot. The left eye is going to potentially still have vision. So they spot welded it back on with a laser, and the dog was still visual almost until the day he died 7 years later,
wow.
which was something of a miracle considering the veterinary school said, peace out, this never works. So, my son would take the dog in to see Dr. Collins, our ophthalmologist, and he'd say, he can't see. And Carl would be like, yeah, he does. My son would say, yes, he does. He'd roll a ball across the floor. The dog would run over and pick it up. And Dr. Collins is like, well, I don't know why he can see because he's got so little retinal function. He shouldn't be able to see. And this dog
My
was
God.
still visual. So I would encourage people, if they have a detached retina and if they have someone close enough in their community, because I'm sure there's probably more than 3 people now in the country, but maybe not, because the one we saw ended up doing missionary work in Africa. So he left veterinary medicine and went to Africa. I'm like, dude, like you're one of 3 people in the country that does this and you leave? He's like, yeah, I'm out. So anyway, it doesn't
Okay.
happen very often that dogs can have their retina reattached, but retinal detachment does happen in dogs. It does happen in cats. It can be genetic. It
Mhm.
can be caused by trauma. It can be caused by a tumor, which of course is always bad. It can
Okay,
be
so
infections.
trauma, that's what I was trying to get my head around. What
Yeah.
causes it?
Yeah. In people, it's oftentimes associated with being very nearsighted and a relatively minor amount of trauma to a nearsighted person. And I'm really nearsighted, so I'm especially aware of these clients and friends of mine that have had a retinal detachment because I'm always like, am I, every time I see my ophthalmologist, she says, if you see a flash of light, you call me right away. Okay, I
Oh,
will. But
okay.
of course, dogs can't tell us that they're seeing flashes. So I'm
Right.
going to tell people if you see flashes you can't explain and it's not lightning or a light bulb that's flickering, you need to go see your ophthalmologist immediately.
Oh
So there's
my.
a lot of reasons: high blood pressure, high pressure in your eye, uveitis, immune mediated diseases. There's a whole list of reasons that the retina detaches, but it's always bad and it's always very difficult to manage. So, retinal detachment usually means that the dog will go blind.
Mm.
There's one condition that's really interesting in labs, primarily Labradors, that have a combination of dwarfism. So they have bad hips, bad elbows. This dwarf short legged Labrador that will spontaneously, like they go from being normal to blind overnight, detach a retina. And in those cases, those kinds of situations, they just don't get
And it's
better. And
somehow
I,
twinned with the dwarfism?
yeah, it's really a strange condition.
Weird.
And we don't really understand it very well, but it's something. So if you have this short-legged little Labrador that looks like it's crossed with something short-legged like a dachshund or a basset, you may want to make a really good friend of your local veterinary ophthalmologist because you may be seeing them.
Wow.
So that's one of the causes of retinal detachment. So it's very serious, it's very sudden, and it's very, very difficult to manage. So I want to be clear on that. But high blood pressure, hypertension happens in dogs, happens more often in cats, and it's often related with hyperthyroidism or kidney disease. And
Mm.
so these cats again will fake it really well. They'll walk around the house like everything's cool until you put up the Christmas tree and the cat goes right into the Christmas tree because you didn't tell them that you rearranged the house and they don't know and they faked it so well you didn't notice that they were gradually going blind and then they lost their vision until you changed the house around. They were fine. If you moved, they were fine until you move into a different house or a different apartment. So those are really important things to be aware of.
So, high blood pressure in
So that's
dogs.
retinal
This
detachment.
seems like a whole thing
Yeah.
that I mean, I have high blood pressure. It's because I'm a little fluffy. Why why do dogs have high blood pressure?
It can be kidneys, it can be other reasons. Oftentimes it's kidney related.
Mm,
So we and it's really hard to check blood pressure in dogs and really, really hard to check it in cats.
right.
They don't
Not like
like
you're
the little
putting a
cuff.
little
We do,
cuffy thing on their arm, you know?
yeah, you have to put it around their wrists and they really get ticked and cats don't like it when you touch their feet and dogs don't like it when you touch their feet. And so you have to put the thing on. And we usually charge for it because it's not just part of the routine physical exam where you go in and you're cooperative. They put the blood pressure cuff
Right.
on, listen to your
And it
thing, give you a blood pressure.
hurts.
Well, because they always hyperinflate the cuff. You're like, did you really have to go to 400? But of course they do.
Sure.
So yeah, so hypertensive cats and hypertensive dogs and dogs and cats with kidney failure can have retinal detachment. But again, it's pretty unusual. Sometimes they'll have retinal bleeds. So if you see a problem with the kidneys and then your vet's looking in your dog's eye or cat's eye, that's why they're looking for retinal detachment or retinal bleeds, which are indicative of hypertension. So those are
Okay.
important things to know.
Okay. Uh,
So there's that. And then there's the genetic causes of retinal dysplasia. So
yeah.
there's PRA, and that's unfortunately kind of common, but we do have some DNA tests for dogs and cats with this,
Right.
more in dogs than we have in cats. But so it's important if you have a breed that has a tendency to have PRA that you
So
do your DNA test
progressive
and
retinal
no
atrophy.
atrophy. Yes. Yeah. Labradors, certain other breeds have a lot of this.
Talkers.
Yeah. So if you have a breed that has that, you should do the DNA test. But
Mm.
the DNA test on eyes for PRA and other eye disorders isn't going to replace the ophthalmologist's exam.
Mm,
And so a lot of breeders and a lot of people that buy dogs from breeders are aware of the ophthalmologist exam, which used to be called a surf exam, and now it's called an ERC.
mhm,
It's the same thing, it's just OFA has taken it over because surf wasn't doing a good job at their database. So it doesn't mean the information was bad, it just wasn't well documented and kept up
mm,
to date.
mm,
So many times your vet will recommend that you both have a DNA test and an ophthalmologist exam. And when we get to retinas and a lot of these other disorders, lenses, cataracts, that kind of thing, a lot of veterinarians are not good at doing these kinds of really comprehensive exams because they take specialized equipment and specialized training.
mm,
So it's always a good idea to see an ophthalmologist if you have that option. Or if your vet says there's something wrong with your dog's vision or eyes, and I'm not quite sure what it is,
mm,
and you can get in to see an ophthalmologist, shake
mm,
your head, do this with your head, and
mm.
say, yes, I would like to see an
Right.
ophthalmologist, and go see one.
Doggett simplifies the puppy buying journey by connecting families with the perfect breed and responsible, health verified breeders. They are the only breeder marketplace that verifies health clearances and responsible breeding practices. Through their personalized puppy matcher tool and matchmaker services, they educate and guide buyers every step of the way, ensuring a seamless process and a perfect match for their lifestyle. From initial breed consultation to introductions with top breeders, Doggett makes responsible puppy ownership easy and stress-free.
Well, and the ophthalmologist that I've worked with over the years, just for, regulation health screening, we don't have huge problems in my breed with eyeballs,
Right.
have just been such amazing people. Like,
Oh, yeah.
was it you I was talking to? Somebody I was talking to, like the veterinary ophthalmologist is like this with your dog. How do they not have their faces eaten? I don't
I know.
understand it.
It was probably me because they are literally nose to nose with your
Yeah,
dog. And
yeah,
some of the dogs don't like it. It's a bright light. It's a
yeah.
little uncomfortable to have that much light in your eye. And the dog's like, oh, okay, you've dilated my pupils. Now you're going to shine a really bright light in there and make it
Mhm,
hurt. But I'm
mhm.
just going to go, sure, please go ahead and look at both of
Fabulous.
them for an extended period of time.
Yes.
So
And
it
don't
takes special
move. That's the
lenses.
other thing.
Yeah,
Don't
exactly.
move.
Well, and when I go to the ophthalmologist, they say, look up in the upper right corner
Right.
of the room, look
Right.
to the right, look in the lower right corner. And so you do all these quadrants, and
Count
the dog's
count
like,
the little flashes. What?
yeah, the dog's looking around the room, and the
Right.
ophthalmologist is rolling around with them.
Right.
It's really very impressive that
Yeah.
ophthalmologists can do as good a job as they do. So I have complete respect. Requires special lenses, special lighting, special equipment, slit lamps, all this stuff to really go do a great job of an ophthalmic exam. And I used to have an ophthalmologist, I think he's close to retirement now, that he would 2 years after he saw a dog at a surf clinic would say, so I think that was the right eye. And I'd be like, you remember this dog after you've seen 10,000 eyes in the meantime? You remember this dog is
Right.
the right eye? He's
Right.
like, well, yeah. Like, okay,
Sure.
I'm totally impressed. So
Um
I think that's important.
so what are some of when we're talking about some of our breeds, some of our mixed breed dogs, what are some of the sort of genetic things that we might encounter with our dogs when it comes to retinas?
Well, PRA
Besides PRA. PRA,
is
obviously.
one. There's Mural ocular dysgenesis and collie. So
Mm,
collie is when the
polii.
dogs have. We've bred collies to have these teeny tiny little eyes because
Mhm,
people like the way it looks, and then these dogs end up with such small eyes and such small retina
mhm,
optic discs that they end up with visual problems.
mhm,
We have Mural problems, so breeding Mural to Mural, and it doesn't just have to be an Aussie or a
mhm,
Cardigan Welsh Corgi. Pembrokes don't have a Merle gene, but Collies, Aussies, some of those breeds that are Merle, and now of course we're seeing it in Frenchies and some other breeds. If you breed Merle to Merle, you end up with dogs that are oftentimes visually impaired and hearing impaired. So
mhm.
now you're taking a dog and taking away the two most important senses that they have, and you're making them into a dog that can't really function as a pet, doesn't function well when you're approaching them quickly. They just
But
they don't
it's
function
got
well.
pretty
So
color.
I know, but don't breed Merle to Merle. This is the
I,
bottom line,
it
and
makes me
it
really
just
grouchy.
never should be done. The problem is there's
Art.
a few dogs that are Merle that are called cryptic Merles, and
Yes.
you
The
don't know they're
Aussie.
Merle
Hmm.
unless you DNA test them because they may have like one tiny little spot of Merle on their whole body, and
Hmm.
you don't identify it as being a Merle, and so you inadvertently bred that dog to a Merle dog, and ended up with Merle to Merle and not
Hmm.
knowing it. So important that people are aware of those things. So that's kind of a big deal. Some of the other things we see with retinas, like diabetic retinopathy, that are really
Hmm.
common in people,
Hmm.
they're rarely things that are clinically significant in dogs and cats. So technically, they can have a diabetic retinopathy, but it's rare. There's ceroid lipofuscinosis retinopathy. Never heard of it. Don't know anything about it. It's inherited, pretty rare. There's drug-induced retinopathies, and this was kind of interesting to me because I couldn't pronounce any of the drugs that can cause this except
Marty,
for
come on. If
ivermectin.
you can't pronounce the drugs, we're all toast. Just so,
Yeah, so but there's ivermectin, and ivermectin is the drug that's in some of the heartworm preventives.
right?
And at those
Most
doses,
of
it
them.
doesn't cause a problem with the retina and it doesn't cause toxicity, even in the MDR1 dogs. But if they get a mega dose, like you accidentally gave too much of your, I'm going to cheap out and not use true heartworm preventive, but I'm going to go to the farm store and buy a bottle of ivermectin, and you give too big a dose, they can have blindness at least temporarily.
Hmm.
And there are other drugs, other things like too much oxygen, but again, they have to be in 100% pure oxygen for more than 4 days as a newborn. So those things just aren't really going to happen. I don't worry much about that. Too low of vitamin A, too low of vitamin E and selenium, again, pretty rare. Those are mostly problems in the Polish lowlands and the English Cocker Spaniels.
Hmm.
So again, pretty rare. Um, so those are things that, to be complete, we have to mention.
Sure.
But then we can see things like an inflammation of the optic nerve. And that can be caused by canine distemper. It can be caused by cryptococcosis, which is a fungal infection. We can
Oh.
see it in cats and dogs from toxoplasmosis. And a
Mm.
lot of people think of toxoplasmosis as being a cat disease,
Mm.
but many of the times when I've gone to lectures, the lecturer that's talking says, here are pictures of dogs with toxoplasmosis because I've never seen it in a cat. So
Mm.
even though it's reported to be more problematic in cats, it may not be. So we need to be aware of those kinds of inflammations and infections. We can see immune mediated optic neuritis. We can see toxicities from rodenticides, rat poison. There
Oh,
can be too much bright light or too much radiation. But again, nobody irradiates their dog's eye unless they have cancer. And I mean, how many people do radiation on their dog anyway? And then certainly not around the eye because we know that that's a problem. So those are things that are really pretty rare. And then there's this really interesting condition called SARD. It's sudden acquired retinal degeneration. And I saw, honest to God, this is the
I've
truth,
never even heard this.
30, 35 or 40 years ago, I saw the first dog that Wisconsin's vet school ever saw was SARD. Came
Hmm.
into my practice. It was a little schnauzer. The dog came in drinking excessively, urinating excessively, and acutely blind. And I mean acutely blind. These people are still clients of mine today. So I've seen these people for 40 some years. And they had the very first dog that University of Wisconsin had was SARD. And what's interesting is that it was drinking a lot and urinating a lot, and it was suddenly blind. And so I'm thinking, well, does this dog have a pituitary tumor that's now grown in and interfered with its ability of its nerve to the eyes to function? So I sent him down to the vet school. The vet school was just starting to see cases at that point, and no, it was SARD. So again, really rare, but and it's irreversible, and we don't know the cause. Even 40 years later, we still don't know the cause of SARD, other than to say these dogs acutely start drinking a lot, urinating a lot, because if you drink a lot, you have to urinate a lot,
Right.
and then they lose their vision. So it's irreversible. You can't change it. You can't fix it, but it's important to know if you have that as a diagnosis that you can't fix it and you couldn't have prevented it. So it's not like you're going to keep seeing vet after vet after vet to try and fix the problem. You go to one veterinarian, you see an ophthalmologist, they go, it's SARD, and they're done.
And so they don't know what is triggering this?
No, no, they don't. It's really rare. So it was first discovered at Pennsylvania. and it's just one of those really unusual, rare conditions. So there are weird things that can happen in people and in dogs. And so I think if you have any doubt, any question about your quality of your dog's vision, or your veterinarian makes the recommendation that you see an ophthalmologist, that you go in as quickly as you can get in. And of course, like all veterinary specialists right now, they're hard to get in to see.
Yeah.
But there are definitely eye clinics that happen at dog shows
Mm.
and other events that if you have the opportunity to
Mhm.
take your dog in to see, and they're normal, you don't want to wait until you have a problem. But if you have a normal dog and you're using them in a breeding program, or you're thinking of using them in a breeding program, that you see an ophthalmologist, because this kind of retinal disease is very, very hard to see. PRA, some of these really
Mhm.
subtle changes.
Mhm.
My dog was diagnosed with this really weird disorder. I'd never heard of, haven't heard of it before, haven't heard of it since. But you know what? That many was out of the gene pool, and I'm
Right.
not going to perpetuate that.
Right.
So if you're working with a responsible breeder or a responsible person who wants to do a good job with their breeding
Mm.
program, you're going to see an ophthalmologist, because things like retinal disease is
Mm.
hard to diagnose. Lenses are a little easier. Eyelids are super easy. They're right there on the front of the eye. But
Mm.
retinas are buggers. So you want to see an ophthalmologist.
And so when you say are acquiring a dog, right?
Mhm.
What are the kind of things that we're going to look for? Like, I'm going to buy a Cocker Spaniel, or I'm going to buy a Labrador or a Corgi or
Mhm.
whatever. What are the types of tests that you should expect that your breeder has done before you acquire that puppy?
For eyes, two things. For breeds that need to have DNA done, and you can tell if you go to the chick website, they
Mm.
should have the DNA test done for the disease or the diseases found in your breed. And that's going to be PRA, that's going to be pigmentary uveitis in golden retrievers,
Mm.
it's going to be cataracts in certain breeds. So there's definitely DNA tests for some of these things, but we don't have a DNA test for everything,
Mhm.
and we don't have the ability to see everything in the eye that we can DNA test for. So things like retinal disease that can show up when the dog is 12 years old,
Mhm.
you take the dog in when it's a puppy or a young dog for a breeding program, you're not going to be able to predict some of those things. So you need to have both in some breeds. So the chick website, Canine Health Information Center,
Right.
is part of OFA.
Okay. Yeah.
You go to that, you click on the breed that you're interested in, and it brings up a list of the diseases that are seen or the disorders that are seen in your breed based on your breed club's recommendations. And that's based on hundreds of people
Right.
that have thousands of dogs that understand the breed and understand the disorders. So I think it's important you do that. And if you're buying a dog that's a combination of breeds, so you're buying a Bernedoodle, you want to look at Bernese Mountain Dogs and Poodles,
Mhm.
and then add those together so that you're not doing one breed or the other, because you're combining those breeds. And when you do that combination, doesn't mean all the bad genes fall
No.
out. It means
No.
sometimes you double up on things you didn't know were there.
Yeah. I think that's an important, really important thing for people to hear. Just combining two breeds does not make them healthy. Okay.
Really? It
So
doesn't just filter out all the bad stuff? Boom! They're just magically genetically pure?
no,
It doesn't work that way.
no.
No, sometimes it's
We
additive.
are trained professionals, and I'm here to tell you, no, that's not how that works.
Yeah,
Um, that doesn't mean that things can't be tested for, but it does not
right.
just in and of itself magically cure all the problems.
Exactly.
Okay, so Canyon Health Information Center, you can Google it. You can find the breed or combination of breeds that you're talking about. You can find out what tests they should have done. There are some, and I'm not sure if these are retinal diseases, so you can correct me if I'm wrong. There are some diseases that people will test for before the puppies go home, just like on 8-week-old puppies. Um, I know a lot of my breeder friends and like Australian Shepherds and some of these
Hmm.
breeds will do an eye exam before the puppies go to their home.
Right, right. So as soon as the puppy's eyes are open, an ophthalmologist can see their eyes. And that's always kind of the standing joke is, well, how young can I do the test? Well, as soon as their eyes are open, you can do it. And so for some breeds that have PPMs, that have some of these disorders, then yes, it's a great idea to buy a puppy that's already been health tested.
Right.
But we used to have an easier time getting in to see an ophthalmologist with a litter of puppies than we do now. So it may not always be something that works for the breeder and the ophthalmologist to be able to get together in the same place at the same time.
Yeah, that is a challenge.
If you have the opportunity to do a health clinic, that's probably the easiest thing to do because the health clinics will oftentimes do, 100, 200 dogs, pairs of eyes in a day, depending on the volume of cases and the ophthalmologist's ability to move through those. So I used to have an ophthalmologist that could do 200 dogs in a day. It was great.
It's amazing.
There's a lot of eyes.
That's a lot of
A lot of
eyeballs.
eyes. Mhm.
All right, you guys, Retinas, the cameras for our dogs,
film.
the film in the camera, and our dog's eyeballs. That's pretty
There you
amazing.
go.
All right. Thanks, Marty. I sure appreciate you, dear.
Of
Have a great-
course.
Hey, friends. Did you know that the Marty and Laura Show website has a special page just for young animal lovers? Whether your child is meeting their first pet or already dreaming of becoming a veterinarian, Kids Corner is a place to explore animals through creativity, curiosity, and age-appropriate learning. Designed for young animal lovers and their families, these resources encourage empathy, responsibility, and a lifelong love of pets. Start off with a free coloring page. That's right. A new coloring page is available regularly. Download one free and check back often for new designs. And if you love that free page, take your coloring adventure further with the 10-page Color Me Pets coloring pack for just $5. Each page is filled with adorable, breed-specific dogs and fun educational prompts that spark creativity and curiosity. This pack is perfect for kids who want to explore, who want to color, and who want to discover more about pets. It encourages careful observation, fine motor skills, and an appreciation for animals, all while providing hours of fun. Plus, it's an easy, printable download, perfect for rainy days, long car rides, or creative play at home. Artwork by award-winning artist Sandy Mesmer, the Color Me Canine Collection brings even more adorable pets and fun designs. Explore full coloring books available online through Sandy's shop link on our page. Visit martyandlaurashow.com/kids-corner to learn more. Thank you for joining us on the Marty and Laura Show. We're excited to bring you these unique, fun, fact-based conversations about pet health. We hope you'll join us on social. Stop by the website to sign up for an extra tip of the week for your pet. While you're at it, do us a favor, please, and leave a review wherever you find your podcasts. The Marty and Laura Show is produced by Pure Dog Talk, Inc. Sound design and editing by Premium Audio Services.